Hello again, and welcome to That History Dude. Today we're going to go over Clan MacDuff. Clan MacDuff is an offshoot of the larger House of Dunkeld. Clan MacDuff comes from Malcolm III, Canmore, King of Scots, with his marriage with Margaret of Wessex. You have the continuation of the House Dunkeld with David, King of Scotland, and etc. But one of his sons, Ethelred, who was an abbot of Dunkeld and the first Earl of Fife, who married Princess Tulle Moray. She was the daughter of Lulach Tirbeth, who was also a king of Scots. Their children would be Constantine MacDuff, second Earl of Fife, and Duv MacDuff. Constantine had no heirs, had no children, so the Earldom of Fife went to his nephew, Dub's son. And from there, we have Clan MacDuff. Dub's son was Gilmichael MacDuff, the third Earl of Fife, who died in 1133. He had 3 children. It MacDuff, who married Garnay, the first Earl Buchan, and together their children would be House Buchan. Hugh MacDuff, who was the lay abbot of Abernathy, and Duncan MacDuff, the 4th Earl of Fife. Now this is where the lines split. The lay abbot of Abernathy was a secular lordship of Abernathy, even though it had a church and it was church lands. It was secular position, and it would become hereditary. I'm going to follow first the Abernathys before continuing on with the MacDuffs. Hugh had 2 children, Hugh Aegidius MacDuff of Markinch, and Orm MacDuff, who inherited his father as lay abbot of Abernathy. Hugh had a son, Michael Wims of Methil, 1st Earl of Wims. Here is another offshoot clan, Clan Wims. Clan Wims comes from Clan MacDuff, which comes from House of Dunkeld. As you can see, a lot of the current clans of Scotland and a lot of the surnames that people have from the Scottish Highlands, and with immigration in the 1800s into America and the United States, Canada, the Americas in general. Wims, MacDuff, Abernathy, Buchan, all these surnames come from really just a few clan groups, and then they branch out. I will be doing a video about Clan Wims in the future, but right now I'm working on something else. I will make a playlist of all the clan branches and put them together. Following on with Orm MacDuff, died in about 1180. His son Lawrence MacDuff, lay abbot of Abernathy, died 1245, had 2 children. Hugh MacDuff, who became Lord of Abernathy, who died 1291 and succeeded his father in the lordship of Abernathy, and his brother William Abernathy, who became the first Laird of Saltoun. Now, with the Lairds of Saltoun, the Abernathy name became officially a surname. So it's no longer William MacDuff, it's William Abernathy. And as you can see here, William had a son who was also William Abernathy, who was the second Laird of Saltoun, who died about 1319. And he had another son, William Abernathy III, Laird of Saltoun, who died about 1345. Now, before I get too far down, Hugh MacDuff, Lord of Abernathy, married Maria MacDougall, the daughter of Ewan MacDougall, the Lord of Argyll, third of Donnelly and Lorne. And I will make a video about MacDougalls, so you can have some more information about the MacDougalls, MacDonalds, and so on. Now, their son, Alexander MacDuff, Lord of Abernathy, married Margaret Stewart of Menteith. And together they had 2 daughters, Margaret Abernathy and Mary Abernathy. Margaret married John Stewart, the first Earl of Angus and Lord of Bonkle, and their children would be part of Clan Stewart. Mary Abernathy married Andrew de Leslie, Lord Leslie, and their children were part of Clan Leslie. So moving on to William's son, George Abernathy, 4th Laird of Saltoun. He had 4 children. George Abernathy's daughter, Helen, married Malcolm de Balfour, and their children were Clan Balfour. Now, something of note, Michael de Balfour and Helen Abernathy are direct ancestors of Margaret Balfour, the wife of Sir James Balfour Paul, the author and editor of the Scots Peerage. And as you can guess, yes, Margaret Balfour is related to Sir James Balfour. They both have the same last name. And yes, they did marry each other. George Abernathy, the 5th Laird of Saltoun, who died about 1388. And then he had 2 brothers, Sir John Abernathy of Saltoun and William Abernathy of Saltoun. They're just other children of the marriage. Not very important. They're just knights. Did not inherit as their brother did, George. Now, George's son, another William, he married Mary Stuart, who's daughter of Sir Robert Stuart, the 1st Duke of Albany, and Margaret Gordon, Countess of Menteith. Together, William and Mary had 3 children, John Abernathy of Kinalty, Marion Abernathy, who died about 1466, and Sir William Abernathy, 7th Laird of Saltoun. Sir William would go on to have 2 children, William Abernathy, the 8th Laird of Saltoun, and then finally Lawrence, who would inherit after his brother, and he would become the 1st Lord. So he was no longer just an everyday Gaelic laird. He became a Lord of Saltoun. He married a woman by the name of Margaret, and together they had several children. They had William Abernathy, the 2nd Lord of Saltoun, who married Isabella Borthwick, and together their daughter was Christiana Abernathy, who married Sir John Wemyss of Strathardo. And again, they are related. I bet far, but they are related. Clan Wemyss, if you remember, comes from this branch of the family. So they are far, far cousins. Then we have Archibald Abernathy, Elizabeth Abernathy, and George Abernathy. And then James Abernathy, who inherited from his brother because he only had a daughter. So she obviously did not inherit. And when he died, it went to his brother James, who became the third Lord of Saltoun. Now, James had several children. Elizabeth Abernathy, who married Alexander Hay, the fourth of Dalgety, and their children would be part of Clan Hay and part of the Dalgety branch. Margaret Abernathy, who married John Sterling of Craigbernard. Janet Abernathy, who married Alexander Ogilvy of Deskford, and they'll be part of Clan Ogilvy. Helen Abernathy, who married Thomas Urquhart of Cromarty. And then finally, a son, Alexander Abernathy, who was the fourth Lord of Saltoun, who married an unknown Stuart woman. We do know that she is the daughter of Sir James Stuart, the Earl Buchan, who is the granddaughter of Sir James Stuart, the Black Knight of Lorne, and Lady Joan Beaufort. Her name has been lost to history, but we do know who her father was and her grandfather and grandmother. Now going down, we have a lot of children over here to the left. Lawrence, Thomas, John, Beatrix, and Agnes. And then we have the important one, William Abernathy, the fifth Lord of Saltoun, who married Elizabeth Hay of Errol, daughter of William Hay, the fourth Earl of Errol. This is just another branch of the Hay family. As you saw over here, you have Clan Hay of Dalgety. This is Clan Hay of Errol. And together they had William Abernathy and Elizabeth Abernathy, and their son, Alexander Abernathy, who inherited the lordship of Saltoun, became the sixth Lord of Saltoun. He died about 1587, and he married Alison Keith. She's the daughter of William Keith, the fourth Earl of Marischal. Not sure how exactly to pronounce that. Together they had George Abernathy, the seventh Lord of Saltoun, Alexander Abernathy, Elizabeth Abernathy, Jean Abernathy, who married Alexander Seton, the sixth Lord of Meldrum. Together their heirs and children were part of Clan Seton, and John Abernathy of Barry and Mayon. John Abernathy would have a son, Thomas. Thomas would have two sons, Alexander Abernathy of Auchinleck and Maine, and James Abernathy of Barry. They would die childless, and those lands would revert back to the lordship of Saltoun. So this line ended. So going back to George, who married Margaret Stuart, who is the daughter of John Stuart, the fourth Earl of Athol, and Margaret Fleming. Together they had John Abernathy, the eighth Lord of Saltoun, Jean and Jonetta Abernathy, and Margaret Abernathy. Margaret Abernathy is important because once John Abernathy died, as you can see, he only had one son. His first marriage, Magdalen O'Rourke of Cromarty, produced Margaret Abernathy. Then he married Anne Stewart, and it produced 3 children: Anne Abernathy, Alexander Abernathy, and Margaret Abernathy. Alexander Abernathy did inherit his father's lands, and he became the 9th Lord of Saltoun. Now, he died before he could have any children, and he left the lands to his sister, Margaret Abernathy. She also did not marry or have any children. So Margaret, who was a lady of Saltoun, she was essentially a lord in her own right. She was officially numbered as the 10th Lady of Saltoun. Now, when she died, the lordship, because everyone was dead, went to Margaret. And Margaret, who married Alexander Fraser, who was the 9th Laird of Philorth, their son, Alexander Fraser, inherited his father's lands, being the 10th Laird of Philorth, and inherited his cousin's lands as well, and became the 11th Lord of Saltoun. The lordship of Saltoun continues on to this very day in the Fraser line. The current holder is Flora Marjorie Fraser. She is the 21st Lady of Saltoun. She was born in 1930. Now, to go back up through the line, and we are going to continue through the Earls of Fife, where we left off with Duncan. Duncan MacDuff, the 4th Earl of Fife. He had several children. He had a daughter, Africa MacDuff, a son, Shaw MacDuff, another one, Adam MacDuff, and another son, Duncan the 2nd MacDuff, who inherited as his father and became the 5th Earl of Fife. Now, some things to add on. Africa MacDuff married Harold the Old Madison, 25th Jarl of Orkney. And if you don't remember from my previous video of House Dunkeld, he is part of House Dunkeld, which is why he is shaded in this orange color, which shows all of the Dunkeld line. Now, House Athol is a branch of the Dunkeld line. So, again, yes, they're far cousins, but they are related. Shaw MacDuff, who died about 1179, he would go on to actually and be the progenitor of Clan Macintosh. So that would be a whole nother video in itself. Adam MacDuff married Orbilis Fitzness de Lilshurs. There's no recorded children or any other information from this marriage. Now on to the heir. Duncan the 2nd MacDuff, the 5th Earl of Fife, married a woman named Hella. Nothing else is known of this woman, but they did have a Duncan MacDuff, Malcolm the 1st MacDuff, who inherited from his father and became the 6th Earl of Fife, a David MacDuff, Lord of Strathbogie, and then an unknown female MacDuff, who married Gilbert MacFergus, Lord of Galloway, and had children who were part of House Galloway. Now, Duncan MacDuff did not inherit. His son did, Malcolm II. Now, Malcolm I married Matilda of Strathern, who was daughter of Gilbert, the third Earl of Strathern, but they did not have any children. So the Earldom of Fife went to his nephew, Malcolm, who married Ellen for Lewin, who is the daughter of Lewin the Great ap Lorth, Prince of Wales, and Joan, Lady of Wales. They had 3 children: an unknown MacDuff female, an unknown MacDuff male, and Colman MacDuff, who became the 8th Earl of Fife. The unknown MacDuff female married Walter de Moray, who was Lord Petty, and their children would be part of Clan Murray. Here, Colman MacDuff married Anna Durard, who was the daughter of Sir Alan Durard, the Justiciar of Scotia, and Marjorie Dunkeld. So, in a way, Anna's mother was part of the Dunkeld line, and she herself was far related to Colman. Their children were Marjorie MacDuff, who married Alan Menteith, the 3rd Earl of Menteith. Now, another quick note: the Earls of Menteith dropped their paternal name of Stuart, and the name Menteith became their surname by this time. So I do have their surname here as Alan Menteith, but just for clarity, they are Stuarts of Menteith. And then Duncan III MacDuff, who inherited from his father, became the 9th Earl of Fife. He married Joan de Clare, who was the daughter of Gilbert de Clare, the 7th Earl of Gloucester, and Joan Plantagenet of Acre. And if you're not familiar with the Plantagenets, they are the royal house of England during this time. Their children would be Isabella MacDuff, who married John Colman, the 3rd Earl of Buchan, and their children would be part of Clan Colman. And then we have Duncan the 4th MacDuff, the 10th Earl of Fife, who married Mary de Mortimer, who was the daughter of Ralph de Mortimer and Joan Plantagenet of Acre. Yes, Mary de Mortimer and Joan de Clare were half-sisters. They had different fathers, but they had the same mother. And they married father and son. Duncan IV MacDuff and Mary had a daughter, Isabella MacDuff, who inherited the Earldom of Fife in her own right. She became the 11th Countess of Fife. And she married Walter Stewart, who became the Lord Consort of Fife. He was the son of Robert II, Stuart, King of Scotland. So she married into the royal line of kings of Scotland. Now, they didn't have any children, so the Earldom of Fife was passed to her brother-in-law, Robert Stewart, who would become Duke of Albany. So the Earldom of Fife went into the Stewart family, and it was out of the MacDuffs. Now, to go back to this other Strathbogie line, going from David, he had a son, John the Strathbogie. Now, their lordship of Strathbogie would eventually become their surname. So they also lost the MacDuff surname. John the Strathbogie married Ada the Hastings, who was the 7th Countess of Athol. And with that, their son inherited the Earldom of Athol. So David the Strathbogie was the 8th Earl of Athol. He married Isabel de Dover. Now, he would die on crusade in Tunisia. But before he died, he did have 2 children. Annabella Strathbogie, who married Sir Adam de Gordon, who was the 7th Laird of Gordon, and their children would be the ancestors of Lord Gordon and Clan Gordon. And John the Strathbogie, the 9th Earl of Athol, who married Margaret of Mar, who was the daughter of Donald I, 6th Earl of Mar, and Ellen Furclewin. And if you remember Ellen Furclewin, she was over here. Ellen Furclewin. She did marry Malcolm II and have children with him. But she also had another marriage with Donald, the Earl of Mar, and had this daughter, Margaret. Together they had David II Strathbogie, who became the 10th Earl of Athol, and Isabella Strathbogie. Isabella married Edward Bruce. And if you have watched my Clan Bruce video, Edward Bruce became the 4th Earl of Carrick, and he invaded Ireland and became the High King of Ireland. He was the brother of Robert the Bruce, King of Scotland, and together they had children. Going to David II, David did not fare well. He rebelled against Robert the Bruce, and he supported the Balliols. Now, after the wars, he was forced to forfeit all land and titles. There was also contention between how Edward, his brother-in-law, treated Isabella. There is some sources and there are some claims that their marriage was not on the up and up, that there was abuse and such, and David did not take lightly to this. Now, David had 3 children. David III Strathbogie, Sir John Duff, and Sir Aymer Strathbogie, who was a Knight of Felton. Sir Aymer Strathbogie had 2 daughters. His line ends there. David III Strathbogie had a son, David IV Strathbogie. He also would have 2 daughters, and the male lines end there. Now, Sir John Duff had 10 generations of commoners, no less, of merchants and businessmen, and it would be William Duff, the 1st Earl of Fife. William Duff was made Earl of Fife when he was able to prove his descent in the peerage from the original MacDuff Earls of Fife. By this time in the late 1600s, early 1700s, the Earldom of Fife was extinct. No one could claim it. No one had it by inheritance. It was under the crown. So, because he was able to prove his line going back to Sir John Duff, he was able to claim it for himself and for his descendants, because his male line continued until 1912, then ends with Alexandra Duff, the second Duchess of Fife. Her sister married Charles Alexander Carnegie, and the Carnegie family today holds the title of Duke of Fife. The current holder is David Charles Carnegie, 4th Duke of Fife, who was born in 1961. Now, for this end part, the 10 generations going down to William Duff, the first Earl of Fife, again, the new creation, I will make a whole nother video with him, because going from William Duff down to where his line ends in 1912 would be a whole nother video in itself. But I would like to show it to you guys and see maybe if you can find any family there. So if your last name is Duff or MacDuff, you could probably come from this line. Alright. Thank you again, guys. This is That History Dude. Please like and subscribe. And have a good day.